my baby sister, Maya.
I think of you as having a lot of cultural flexibility, which you inherited in part from our mother, who connected with people from far away who were very different from the people with whom she grew up. I wanted to talk to you a little bit about, the fact that I think that this comes in part from your respect for diversity, but also the presence in your mind and in your work of sort of core universal values, which are also emphasized in the Obama Foundation. Is it really possible to find core universal values given the diversity of this region and the political differences? And how can these young leaders really use diversity as a strength as opposed to being worried about or having diversity impact cultural, religious, and ethnic conflicts?
Well, look, we live at a time where there's a big contest of ideas around the globe between people who see the world as there's us and there's them, whatever the them is, and those who, I think, like you and I believe a lot of people here, recognize we have differences of culture and experience and history, and that is important to recognize and preserve and honor, but that ultimately we have more in common than we have things that divide us. That the dream of a parent for their children in Vietnam is not fundamentally different than the dream of a parent in Australia has for their children, right? And so many of the things that we're seeing right now in our politics, sometimes in your own countries, but certainly you're seeing it around the world, sometimes between countries that are based on race, religion, ethnicity, gender, sexual orientation, all those things that say, I'm better than you just because of my genetic predisposition or the circumstances in which I was born, those ideas are doing a lot of damage and are the source of conflict, war, etc. So yes, I believe that there are certain core values that apply to everyone. I believe that you have to respect people's basic dignity, regardless of their circumstances and what they look like and how they worship and the station into which they were born. I believe that societies work better when everybody has a voice, not just a few people. I think that's a universal principle. I believe that every child should have basic care early in life. And that's not unique to any one society. So that if there is a society that educates boys but doesn't educate girls, then I can understand the culture and where it comes from. I can recognize that those changes may not happen overnight, but I will insist that as somebody who has 2 daughters and a pretty strong-minded wife, that women are at the very least the equal of men, that countries that sideline half of their population are going to be less successful than countries that get all the talent that's available to that country and help it succeed. I think that's important. I believe that it's important to respect I think it's a universal principle that if a state does not respect religious diversity, that eventually you have conflict. I think it is a dangerous thing if any state says somebody can't practice the faith of their conscience. Now, I will also say this, that I think it is important to recognize that there are going to be sometimes conflicts in values. You know, it is one thing, for example, to respect somebody's religion, but what if that religion then actually says women should not be treated equally to men? Now you have a conflict of values. If you're a leader in that society, how do you manage that? And I think it's one of the things as leaders that all of you are going to have to do is accept that sometimes there are going to be some contradictions where it's not just a right and a wrong, sometimes it's two rights that you have to reconcile or two wrongs that you have to deal with.